Welcome to episode 3 of the Sports Geek podcast. On today's show, we'll be talking geolocation, social media personalities, David Beckham and LA Galaxy, when it's okay for athletes to swear on social media, and how you can design your next mobile app using a paper and pen.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, currently holding his phone up to get a better signal, Sean Callanan.
Thank you, DJ Joel, for the nice introduction, the new voiceover introduction for Sports Geek podcast. Thanks again for all the feedback we've had on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, and texts and messages. Again, your feedback will help mould this podcast. So if you want interviews, if you want case studies, if you want campaigns reviewed, if you want apps, please let us know. And if you want something reviewed that I'm not talking about or I haven't tweeted about, please send me a link and say, hey, Sean, check this out. I want you to talk about it on the podcast. Our first segment today, we are talking about geolocation and location-based services, Foursquare, Yelp and the like, and how they fit with sports. Talking with a good friend of mine that I've met via Twitter, Tariq Ahmed from sportshadow.com, about the studies he's done with location-based services and how sports teams are using them. Here is the interview from ABC Grandstand with Francis Leach that happens on Saturday mornings or Friday afternoons if you're in the US.
And Sean Callanan is from Sports Geek HQ, each week talking sport and the digital media. G'day, Sean. How you going?
I'm good, thanks, Francis. Good.
Now, today, taking us to a different space. Well, a different way to use the space.
Yeah, so what I'm talking about today is, I guess the space itself is called geolocation, and it's all about checking in and telling people you're there.
I've never really understood the impulse to do it. I love social media. I use it a lot, but I don't check into places. I've never been into Foursquare or anything like that. So a lot of people love it though.
A lot of people do. And I don't know exactly what they're. I'm a checker-innerer, and my English teacher will probably say that's not the correct term, but we come up with new terms with social media. Foursquare would be the main one from a geolocational point of view, and the main thing is you check in, tell people where you are from your location's point of view, and then you would share it with your network. So you can share it to Foursquare, but then you can share it to Twitter and Facebook. And
it's like you're stalking yourself.
It is a little bit like that, and that's the problem that the geolocation has. As myself, I use Foursquare. I've used it a lot, and Foursquare hasn't really hit the peak or hasn't had as much penetration in the Australian market as it has in the States. I mean, there's other ones. There's like Yelp, which is more restaurant review style base that you're checking in and telling people what it's like. But sports is probably one of the places, because geolocation is all about the bragging. Places that people check in, on the strip at Las Vegas. Hey, look at me, I'm in Vegas.
It's a brag.
It is a brag. It's like, hey, look at me, I'm at the game, I'm at the Rebels game, or I'm at the MCG, that kind of thing, I know people were following along, and that's what I was doing on Sports Geek Trip. It's like, hey, I'm at the Warriors, I'm at Oracle Arena, and now I'm at the Rose Garden in Portland. So it is a developing space, and it's still a space that both the sports marketer and the sports fan are still figuring out. Because as we've talked about before, there's also the issue of you have a very successful sports event and you actually can't check in.
So frustrating.
Yeah, it is, because you don't have the coverage.
Now we're going to meet someone who might be able to tell us more about it.
Yeah, so who we've got on the line right now is Tariq Ahmed, and he's in the States, and he's actually developed a site called sportshadow.com, and he's done a lot of studies on location-based networks. So I wanted to chat to him about his thoughts on the space and where it's headed.
G'day, Tariq. Welcome to Grandstand Breakfast. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. I'm fascinated as to why people will be attracted to using geolocation and checking it. We just spoke then about the bragging rights, like you are, Fenway Park. You can brag about that because other people aren't there. Is that the only reason why people use it?
No, there's a few other reasons. You guys hit the nail on the head in terms of bragging rights. There's a couple of different points, especially with sports, that I see why people check in. One is status. As was mentioned, like, hey, look at me, I'm at the airport because I'm traveling somewhere. That makes me cool, and that makes you not cool because you're not at the airport like I am. Or same thing, I'm at the game. I'm at this huge event. I'm at the Final Four. I'm at the Super Bowl. Look at me. I'm cool, and you're not. Another thing, especially with sports, is infrequency as well. It seems to be that people will be less likely to go to a game or a big stadium on an everyday basis than they would as compared to a coffee shop or a restaurant or the grocery store. So you still have people checking into these places regularly, but it could be the infrequency of it makes it more valuable. So people are more likely to check in at these big events where they know they're not going to go very often. So there was actually information actually shared from Facebook and Foursquare a couple of years ago that said airports are the number one most checked-in place on our site, and sports venues are number two most checked-in place. Because, again, the same thing, it's infrequent. You don't go to the airport that often. Even if you're a regular traveler, you're not going every day. And then the second thing is the status thing. Like, hey, look at me, I'm traveling, and, that makes me cool, or I'm at the game. I want to let everybody know I'm at the game. So, in addition to the infrequency and status, sometimes you have companies or organizations that will give you a benefit for checking in. Hey, thanks for checking in. The first 100 people to check in on Foursquare and show us your check-in will get a free T-shirt or, coupon at the concession stand, or, maybe they'll scale up the prize and, if you're one of the first 5 people to check in, maybe you'll get a tour of the locker rooms. So
yeah, that's exactly what. If you saw Kevin Cote, who's the social digital guy at the Warriors, he tweeted out yesterday, and the Warriors have been doing a great job. They've been averaging 6,000 check-ins per game during the playoffs, and they actually have a specific Facebook place, which is effectively the check-in desk, and that's where, if you want to get the foam finger or the rally towel or the thunder sticks or the giveaway, that's what you've got to do. You've got to check in, and there's a picture, and I'll retweet it again, of absolute mayhem around the Warriors check-in desk. I'm just showing Francis. How many teams have you found are using that sort of incentive base and sort of tying in sponsors to sort of drive check-ins? And what teams have you found, along with the Warriors, are doing that kind of promotion well?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Warriors. I did see that picture. I retweeted it out last night myself. It's crazy. 6,000 people checked in on Facebook Places. The arena holds 20,000 people, so you're looking at 25% of the crowd actually checked in, which is pretty phenomenal. The data that we get from our site, on a percentage, you're looking at like maybe 5% of attendees to any given stadium, assuming that it's sold out, will check in. So pretty great job by Kevin and his team there. I think, the Warriors do a good job. I know the Tampa Bay Lightning have done some good work with Foursquare as well, tying in check-ins either to like an autographed jersey or, concession stand, either something free at the concession stand or a discount there. I know that some other teams, or not some other teams, but some teams are hesitant to do it. As you guys had mentioned with the Wi-Fi connection, if you have 50,000 people in a stadium, that's 50,000 cell phones that are trying to be used. So I know a lot of teams are pretty hesitant with that. I know that the Carolina Panthers in the NFL, Washington Redskins, and Seattle Seahawks actually have a Foursquare badge that they actually reward their users for checking in. Redskins do a pretty good job with Foursquare as well. Last year they did something where you could check into the game and then you could check into some of the bars and restaurants after the game, and then you were able to get, bring your ticket stub, show them that you checked in on Foursquare, and you could get either discount on appetizers or food or beverages or whatnot. So those are definitely some of the teams that are doing great work with geolocation.
Tariq Ahmed's with us from sportshadow.com talking about geolocation and checking in at big events. Is there something that's in it for the big sports clubs and franchises? Can you, the old trick was to get people to give you their email address so you could build a database, and then you've got direct access to on-sell to them and to cultivate them as fans. What about checking in and that sort of information? Is that something you can warehouse, cultivate and use?
You can. I believe you can partner with Foursquare and Facebook depending on your level of partnership with them in order to get that kind of data, where it could be that, okay, we saw 500 people check into our game, so now that's 500 people either we can target with further advertising or ticket discounts, or even something to do with location-based services. Or it could be that, hey, we saw 500 of you checked in to our game, on Saturday, if you check in to another game in the next month, maybe we'll give you like 25% off the concession stand, or like 40% off the ticket, tickets to another game, or like 50% off something else. So I think the key with that is that you can hopefully leverage that data in order to, provide fans something good, and then hopefully those fans will get their friends to start using it as well.
And I think that's sort of where all those networks are, Facebook with Facebook Places and Foursquare, they are developing that space. Definitely from an advertising point of view, there's talk that Foursquare will start allowing you to effectively purchase ads that target people who may have been at your venue or close to your venue, that kind of thing. So again, all this, one of the key things that Foursquare has is the amount of data of where people are going. So they know, people that went to a game, they know the bars that the traffic flow is going and things like that. So some of that, and we're, one of the networks which is in that geolocational space, Waze, which is a social mapping system. Facebook's in the proposal to buy them to sort of be in that space. So it's still a developing space as far as how the fans and how the sports marketer can use it. But it's very interesting how fans are using it. But it is pretty much the brag thing. What I want to know is if is there going to become some kind of, I want someone to develop a leaderboard and say, No, just to say, I've been to all these different stadiums.
Does that exist?
It does exist. There is a little bit of a badge of how many stadiums you've been to, but I would love to be able to check in and just, because everyone has a bucket list. People have a bucket list of, I want to go to every MLB stadium or every MLB stadium. Maybe Sports Shadow should develop a little bit of a, congratulations, Sean. You've done, 90% of the NBA conference, Western Conference. You've got a few more to go.
Oh, we're on to something now, Tariq. We're going to have to wind it up for the news, but I reckon what we need to do is set a time frame and actually start a race around America to all the stadiums. You've got a month to get there, and we can track it on sports.
There you go.
There you go. We're on to something.
Yeah,
hey, thanks for talking to us.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Tariq Ahmed from SportsShadow.com. That's a good idea. SportsShadow.com.
Yeah, exactly. Check out Sports. You can check out all the stats there. But I'm actually now going to go back through my Foursquare feed, and I'll come back for a list next week of all the stadiums I've been to, Francis.
You do that, and make sure you check in at Grandstand Breakfast.
I'm the mayor.
Well.
I'm the mayor at ABC. Thank you very much.
Good to hear.
You're listening to the Sports Geek Podcast. Tag your tweets, SGP.
Thanks to Tariq there for the interview on ABC Grandstand. There's links in the show notes to sportsShadow.com. Also another link to Kevin Cote's tweet from the Golden State Warriors, doing an amazing job with their check-ins at Warriors games. And I did create a list of Foursquare venues that I have checked into, but I'm pretty sure it's much more than the 20 that I've listed there. So I might need to go back and look at other stadiums I've been to, maybe even prior to Foursquare. Our next segment, I'm talking to Daniel Harford on halftime about the 12 different personality types. It was a study done recently, and we discussed the 12 different types. And after the interview, I'll come back and talk about how we can frame those types in a sports marketing sense and where we see those types as social media executioners when we're running sports brands.
Sean Carolan, our sports digital media guru for SportsGeekHQ.com.
He's in early because we love him, Sean Callanan. Great to have him for Sports Geek HQ. Hello, mate.
G'day, Huff. How you doing?
Going really well. Great to have you in. We're going to get to our long play later on too for all you AFL fans. But Sean's in, and it's a very important subject today. We find out a bit more about ourselves today.
Well, yes, yeah. There's been a study that has analysed the personality types on social media. So the different types of people, and we have discussed it before, how there's people who are waiting, who are on social because they want the deals or they want the news or that kind of thing. So everyone's on it for different reasons. And Dr. David Giles at Winchester University has done a study and has come up with 12 different personality types, and he's got some really good names for them of the different types of the way people are using social media.
Right. So who are they?
So first of all, you've got the ultras. They're the ultra fanatic. They're checking Facebook. They're checking Twitter. They're spending up to 2 hours a day.
That's Rita.
That might be Rita. There's the deniers. Social media doesn't control my life, but take away 3G and they start getting the shakes.
Oh no, hang on, that might be Rita.
Yeah, so then you've got the dippers. So the ones that every now and again, yeah, exactly. Every now and again, they can just dip into social media, gorge and take it all in, and then they can give it a rest for a couple of days or a week. So they're just dipping in and out every now and again.
I could be a dipper, I think.
You could be a dipper. Then there's the virgins, so the ones that are just new, struggling to find out. I mean, and we've spoken about that before, how 40% of people who've got a Twitter account actually haven't tweeted. Right, so that would be in that category.
Righto.
Then another category is the lurkers.
Or they're in this category.
Yeah, or they're in this category with the lurkers. They're the ones that are just reading every single tweet.
You dodgy dudes.
So they're watching every single thing you do. So there's that category. Then there's the peacocks, the look at me and I'm all about the numbers and I've got to get the retweets and that kind of thing. And then there's the other one, which we have spoken about before, the ranters that just get on and they give it all hell, whether it be on Facebook and Twitter. We spoke about them the other week.
Yes.
That use it to complain, and sometimes people, do it for certain reasons. But some people just have that in their nature.
I've got a feeling Panahi fits a lot of these categories.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you need to stay in the one box, but you can sort of float between them in some sense.
5 of them, I reckon.
Then there's the ghosts. The anonymous ones, so they're really protective of their privacy, which is quite valid.
Yep.
And they can they don't want to let any information out, so you don't really know anything about them.
That's the world champ. The world champ.
And then there's changelings, which is a little bit further than a ghoster. And a changeling completely changes their personality. So they completely go the opposite of what they might be and come up with a completely different personality when they're online. So, you might see them on Twitter and they're all bubbly and up and about and everything, but then you meet them in real life and they're dull as. So
that's Rita.
I haven't put you in this. I apologise, Rita. Then there's the quizzes, the people who are too lazy to use Google. Who ask Twitter and ask things with there. So they're the quizzes.
Yeah, I like them.
Then there's the informers, the ones that want to be sharing news, sharing links, keeping people informed, want to break news, and sort of in that journalism type of space. Yeah. So the informers. And then the last one is the approval seekers, the ones that tell you how bad their life is going, or woe is me, and
I hate them.
I've had a terrible day. Please like my status, and they're sort of a bit of look at me. So they're the 12 types, and it's a good way to show the personalities behind social. But as we sort of said, if you like Rita, you can be all 12. It's just a matter of depending on your mood. So what do you think? What do you think you are?
I'm a dipper.
Daniel?
I think I'm a dipper.
You dipper just every now and again. Friday night footy, you're sort of
Friday night's my thing. Venting with half get involved, but I don't really need it every other day. I've got other things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you?
I think most people would say I would be an ultra. I'm on it a fair bit. It's part of the job.
Well, it's a bit different.
But I'm also in that informer category, trying to keep people informed.
You know what I love off the SMS? Honesty from our listeners. I'm definitely a lurker.
Yeah.
From Anonymous.
I've had a text in. I'm a lurker as well. It's like, they're popping their heads up every now and again.
If you want to find out where you fit in the scheme of social media, get to sportsgeekhq.com and you'll find out with the 12 types of social media personalities. Sean, great to see you, mate.
No worries, mate.
Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.
Go ahead, take a look at that 12 personality types in social media. You'll definitely recognise some of them from your own personal experience using social media, and you might want to decide what you are. But also look at it from the fans that you're currently engaging on your social media platforms as part of your sports team or your sports brand. Because I think for some, they have a tendency to worry about the ultras and the ranters a little bit too much and not realise that there's a whole bunch of different types of personalities that are also consuming. One of the slides that I have been using for a long while now is one from Exact Target that profiled the social consumption and the social contribution of fans, and it profiled the fans in a different means to the one described with the 12 types. And again, they have ones like megaphone and open book, which again everyone sees, which is in that ranters and the ultras component. But we've also got to be aware of the lurkers and the people who are just consuming your content or waiting for a deal or cautious because they're new to social media in that space as well. So between both of those, remember that you're catering to a whole bunch of different types of fans, and don't just focus on the ones that complain the most or praise you the most. Both camps. It's very important that you're catering for all audiences there. So just going to change tack a little bit and have a bit of a discussion. In Australia, at least, there was a big story around one of the cricketers, David Warner, who unfortunately got into a bit of a Twitter stoush with a journalist. And again, it appeared the classic, he's either drunk or his account's been hacked. And unfortunately, it was neither. He was actually just very angry with the reports that were made, and he got into effectively a bit of a Twitter fight with a couple of journalists who quite enjoyed the backwards and forwards. Now, Dave Warner was just trying to get his point across that he didn't like being associated with the article that was put forward by Robert Craddock. He just did it in the wrong way, and he didn't address the issue in the right manner. And social pretty much provides athletes a really strong voice. They can say, that wasn't me, that's a lie, I disagree with that point of view, but they've got to do it in the right way. Dave Warner did it in the wrong way. He did it at an inappropriate time. He did it with inappropriate language, and effectively everyone just thought he was drunk or over the top mad, or both. Now, again, I'll link to both his tweets and also his apology on YouTube. It's all been resolved. I mean, he did get a bit of a whack and a fine for his efforts. But in contrast, if you look at how Harry O'Brien, Collingwood footballer, responded to what was Twitter rumours at the time, a TV viewer who thought they could lip read, thought Harry O'Brien said something on the telecast, a homophobic slur. And there was a bit of Twitter chatter during the game and at the end of the game, what did Harry really say? And Harry effectively came out on Twitter and said, sorry, I did not use that phrase. I actually called him a fat bleep, and he actually did censor his own tweet, but he effectively swore on Twitter, but he effectively nipped that whole issue in the bud by addressing it. He addressed it in a manner that was appropriate, and effectively put that matter to bed using Twitter. So a bit of a best case and worst case scenario there from how athletes can use social media. I'll link to both Dave Warner's tweets and Harry O'Brien's tweets in the show notes if you wanted to follow up. But it's a just good lesson there for both athlete managers and also media managers for clubs on what athletes should be doing and how they should be using social media. The last segment today is a bit of a bonus segment. I've gone into the Sports Geek ABC Grandstand archives because just last week David Beckham retired from football. And announced his retirement. There was obviously a lot of press around it. Last year we were lucky enough or earlier this year I should say, we were lucky enough to talk to Lisa Bregman from the LA Galaxy about what it was like having an absolute mega brand like David Beckham on the roster with the LA Galaxy. And here's what she had to say about trying to integrate David Beckham into the LA Galaxy's digital plans.
How did you, Lisa, sort of, leverage a guy like David Beckham sort of to bring the fans in, but then tell them effectively the Galaxy story?
Well, as I mentioned, David didn't have a Twitter account, and touching back on that was actually a decision by his management team. So we worked with them hand in hand for his social media, really for Facebook. So I would send them content from the team side whenever we had it. And that was great for us just because I could send them links to our website. And, he's got 24 million followers right now on Facebook. So that drove considerable traffic for us to the website. But, touching on what you said, Sean, leveraging someone like him is definitely important. And, leveraging the 24 million fans on his Facebook page is definitely important. But, telling that story of the Galaxy and trying to take all of those David Beckham fans and turn them into Galaxy fans was definitely a challenge and something we worked hard on. Even to this day, he's not with us, but anytime we mention his name, those are still the posts on Facebook or on Twitter that are getting the most engagement. But I think, for the most part, the way that we helped educate a lot of those fans was really integrating David in with everyone else on the team, mentioning him a lot of times in the same breath as all of our other players, so that, more than just his name became kind of those common household names. He definitely helped us, increase our brand exposure globally, and I would argue that LA Galaxy is probably, if not the most known brand in MLS globally, maybe even over the league itself. And that was definitely, largely in part, if not completely, because of him.
That wraps up another Sports Geek podcast. I did promise you how to design an iPhone app using, of all things, pen and paper. Check out an app called Pop, Prototyping on Paper. It's a really cool app where you can actually design your app as you should with a paper and pen, but then you take photos of your mock-ups, and you can actually link it all up and effectively have a prototype up and running in a short amount of time. So it's a really good way if you really want to, sketch out and show how you want your app to work to your developers. Again, just using paper and pen. Check it out. The links to the Pop app are in the show notes. They will be sportsgeekhq.com/3.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.